Guru Maharaj ki jai, Bhaktivinod Thakur ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you for joining us today. And I'd like to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can say something to please wonderful devotees of the Lord and the Lord himself as well. So tomorrow is a very special day. It is the disappearance day of Bhaktivinod Thakur, but also it is the disappearance day of Gadadhar Pandit. So we were thinking today we will talk about Bhaktivinod Thakur so that we can meditate on his life today and also tomorrow. So it's a great opportunity for us to look at, or try to look at, the life of one of the most glorious personalities in our Sampradaya. So this is a wonderful sloka which glorifies Bhaktivinod Thakur. So we can recite this together. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto Satchidananda Bhaktivinod, who is transcendental energy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is a strict follower of the Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa.
So this is one of the verses that is a glorification of Bhaktivinod Thakur. It's a series of verses that were composed to glorify our Guru Parampara. So this is the one that glorifies Bhaktivinod Thakur. And it's wonderful how it explains that he is the transcendental energy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and a strict follower of the Goswamis headed by Srila Rupa Goswami. And that's quite a significant comment, as we'll see in a few minutes. So this is Bhaktivinod Thakur. It's a really glorious personality. Now, whenever a day like this comes where we celebrate the appearance or disappearance of a devotee, we should consider ourselves very fortunate. It's said that one who has read all the scriptures, for him the fruit of reading the scriptures is that he gains a taste to hear and chant the glories of a devotee. So it should be understood that if we have a taste to hear about a devotee of the Lord, then we've already read all the scriptures. We've gone through all the scriptures. That's the fruit of the scriptures. And why is that? The devotee, he realizes the personality of God, the presence of the Lord. They can see the lotus feet of the Lord within their hearts. The Lord is seated within their heart. And it's said that the pure devotees are as glorious as the Lord himself. And in fact, the Lord, he recommends actually that the devotee is even more worshipable than the Lord himself. And in particular, he was talking about Lord Shiva. But the principle is the same. Worship of the devotee is more potent than worship of the Lord. And this is from Srila Prabhupada's purport to a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 1st chapter, 13th chapter, 4th verse, 3:13:4. And why is this the case? The Lord is merciful, but the devotee of the Lord is even more merciful, because it is through the devotee of the Lord that we can attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And the devotee of the Lord is more accessible than the Lord. The devotee of the Lord comes and he gives us the Lord. And the only price he asks is sincerity. So that is why the Lord, the devotee of the Lord, is considered more worshipable than the Lord himself. It's very interesting. So when we have this opportunity where we can talk about and glorify and hear about the pure devotee, we should understand that we are very, very fortunate. And Bhaktivinod Thakur, we can reveal his identity because he himself reveals it in one of the songs that he's written in the Gita Mala. And this song is called the Siddhi Lalasa, and he identifies himself in terms of his spiritual eternal identity as Kamala Manjari. And who is Kamala Manjari? She's a servant of Rupa Goswami, Rupa Manjari, who came as Rupa Goswami, as one of the 6 Goswamis 500 years ago. And Rupa Manjari is one of the leaders of Lalita Sakhi's entourage. And who is Lalita Sakhi? So this is one of my favorite pictures of the deities in Mayapur. And just to give a small introduction for perhaps those who are new to this. This is Krishna, Madhav, and Radharani next to him. This is in Mayapur in Bengal. And this altar is one of the most glorious altars. The deities are at least 7 feet. Very good, amazing. And it's glorious to be there when we're there to have this darshan. And this is Lalita, next to Krishna. So very important Sakhi, one of the 8 principal gopis who serves Radha and Krishna for their pleasure. And the other gopis, we can just name them: Vishakha, Indulekha, Ranga Devi, Sudevi, and on the other side we have Champaklata, Chitra, Gavidya. So this is a first-class altar and a first-class temple. And these 8 Sakhis are called the Asta Sakhis. Asta means 8. They serve Radha Madhav. So Lalita is one of the principal gopis who serves Radharani a lot, great deal. And so when we were looking at the Golok chart, we saw the lotus petals and how we were discussing how the 8 gopis form the first petals. And if you see here, there is the second petal are the Manjaris, and this is Rupa Manjari. And what Bhaktivinod Thakur is doing is identifying himself as the primary Manjari who serves Rupa Goswami, helps Rupa Goswami, who assists Lalita, who assists the worship of Radha and Krishna. So, a very transcendental personality. And he further explains, my bodily hue is like that of lightning, and I wear a sari, the color of a clear night sky sprinkled with stars. I am 12.5 years old, and I live in Swananda Sukhada Kunja. So eternal, this is the eternal position of Bhaktivinod Thakur. Never grows older than 12.5, and constantly assisting Rupa Manjari in serving Lalita Sakhi. And further is described, her kunj is in the bower of Lalita, Brajanandan Sukhada Kunj, where she sets a standard of worship to the divine couple. So a very important position, that is the position of Bhaktivinod Thakur. He comes in this world as, if you like, an ordinary human being, but he's got special potency. And we'll see in a little while what he did whilst he was in this world. He was born in 2nd of September 1838, and he passed away 76 years later, back to the spiritual world. He's one of the prominent acharyas in our sampradaya. Just a brief summary of his life, his achievements. He was a pioneer spiritual leader, so we'll see that in a little while. He also had a lot of children, He was also a working man. He was a magistrate working under the British rule at that time. And he was a great preacher, writer, and a poet. Extraordinary person, actually. Extraordinary personality. He wrote 100 books plus on bhakti, on how we can progress in our spiritual life. And this was at a time when actually these teachings were pretty much lost. He wrote hundreds of devotional songs, and many of those songs, we sing them. Another song, we just sang Jai Radha Madhav, which he composed. But we also sing Yashomati Nandana Brajabara Nagara. So again, another song which he's composed. But he's composed many, like Gopinath, so many songs that we sing. He would write to philosophers, theologians, leaders, scholars, professors. He would, his books that he would print, some of them he sent around the world. And one of them in particular, The Life and Precepts of Lord Chaitanya. In 1986, he wrote that book, and it ended up in many overseas universities, for example, in Canada and in London as well. So he's really a pioneer. He also discovered and excavated the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. That was previously in a place called Navadvip, but he realized that actually that is not the actual site of his appearance. And he finally discovered it after quite some hard research and opposition as well. And along with his wife, Bhagavati, he raised 10 children. And that included a ray of Vishnu called Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. So in essence, this is a brief summary of his life. We can go into some detail. Now, if we go a little bit of history, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born 1486, and he inaugurated the Hare Krishna movement, where he gave us the Hare Krishna mantra, and this is the route of becoming self-realized, simply by chanting Hare Krishna. If we do it with sincerity and humility, then we will attain God consciousness. However, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left, the teachings were carried on by initially Janava Devi, who's the Dharmapatni of Nityananda, and then the 6 Goswamis. They carried the torch of Sanatana Dharma, of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And then it came to the gurus, different gurus, Lokanath Goswami, and then the 3 Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and then there were the 3 pioneers who did the book distribution, Narottam Das Thakur, Ramachandra, and also Srinivas. That's right, Srinivas Acharya. And then after that, for a period of time, Baladev Viti Bhushan, he protected this Gaudiya mission, especially when in Jaipur there was a meeting of the Sri Sampradaya Acharyas who wanted to abolish Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And his disciples also continued the mission. However, after that, there was a problem. There was a big gap. From round about 1750s, there was a huge gap where there was no authorized guru. There were many people who professed to continue the traditions of Chaitanya, but unfortunately, they twisted the teachings and they used them for their own sense enjoyment. They would, for example, dress up as gopis and pretend to be pure devotees of gopis, but interact with ladies and get involved with immoral behavior. So the sect of bhakti, of the Chaitanya tradition, the Gaudiya Vaishnavism, really lost its reputation completely because of these immoral dealings. And there were 13 upper sampradayas. And these sampradayas twisted the original teachings of Lord Chaitanya and brought the whole Hare Krishna movement into disrepute. So really the movement was lost and nobody was taking it seriously. Even the scriptures almost disappeared because nobody really cared for them. The scriptures told the truth, but nobody was really concerned about the truth. They were just into it for their own sense enjoyment. So this is the background of when Chaitanya, Bhaktivinod Thakur appeared. By the time he appeared, Gaudiya Vaishnavism was pretty much lost. He came 1838. His father is called Raj Krishnananda Dutt. He was a devotee of Lord Nityananda, but the whole family, apart from him, were really worshippers of Kali Mata, Durga Mata, Shakti. They were not following the traditions of Lord Nityananda. His father was, but he was almost regarded as an outcast. He's called Daitya Kulera Palad in the family of non-devotees. And that was because Vaishnavism wasn't really respected because of these pseudo groups that had brought it into disrepute. So this was the background. Now, when they used to, the family was religious, and it was a well-to-do family, very rich, and it was an aristocratic family in terms of Brahminical culture. But they were engaged in Kali worship and everything that went with it, which included the sacrifice of goats, and they would eat meat and fish. So their traditions were not in line with Vaishnava philosophy. This is the birthplace of Bhaktivinod Thakur, Ula Birnagar, in Bengal, not far away from Navadvip. And this place has been preserved by the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. His childhood, it was quite a happy childhood. They lived in opulence. They were reasonably well educated. He attended an English school in Krishnanagar, which was actually started by the king of Nadia. Unfortunately, Bhaktivinod Thakur saw a lot of pain in the early years of his life. His elder brother, who was in school with him, became seriously ill. They brought him home and he died. So that was his first experience of the nature of this world. And that disturbed him because he was close to his brother. And when he was 11, in 1949, his father passed away. 1849, sorry. So, and he was close to his father. In fact, the night that his father passed away, he was with him, comforting him, but he fell asleep. And by the time he woke up, his father had passed away and they were ready to take him out. So that was a big shock again. And then the family, although they were well-to-do and mainly they had a lot of property, slowly, surely, they started to lose everything. And eventually they actually were somewhat poverty-stricken. In 1950, when he was just 12, his marriage was arranged to the daughter of Madhusudan Mitra Mahasya. That was a tradition in those days. The boy and the girl would be married very early in their age, and they wouldn't necessarily live together. They would spend one night. The first night, he would have spent first night in the father-in-law's house, but that would have been it until much later on. At the age of 18, in 1856, he went to college in Calcutta. Calcutta is about 100 miles away. And he excelled in English and Bengali, in English literature especially, speech making. he taught actually speech making to a well-known orator in the British Parliament at one point. So, but his mathematics wasn't so hot. Later on, he did catch that up. But he did well in his school education. He returned back to his hometown a few years later, a couple of years later. But by that time, actually, there had been a cholera epidemic, a bit like the coronavirus, but it was much worse. Destroyed practically everybody in his village and almost everybody in his family. Only surviving members were his mother and paternal grandmother. So that was pretty devastating for him. And he became the primary wage earner. He didn't want to go into business because he could see the dishonest nature of the trading world. And he didn't want to enter that particular arena. So he decided to take some advice and became a school teacher. And he went to Jagannath Puri, very holy place, passed the teacher's examination, then he went to school in Kathak, where he became headmaster, and then later he was transferred to another school a couple of times, and everybody noted that he was a hardworking personality. His first son was born when he was 22 in 1860, Ananda Prasad, and at that time, actually, his wife passed away during the childbirth. And soon after, he actually got married again to Bhagwati Devi. And the reason was having a young child needed to be looked after. He also started questioning life because of all the trauma that he had been through. The loss of the wealth, loss of the family, most of the family. He started looking at different philosophies. He started looking at the Brahmano culture, sect, which is basically a Mayavadi sect. He looked at Christianity, and he preferred the Christianity philosophy because of the personal aspect of God. He would question the priests when he went to the temple, does your deity talk to you? And the priests would say, oh, initially yes, and then he would question them more, and they would say, nah, they had no faith. So eventually he came to understand the importance of the Sankirtan movement that was led by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But he also understood and he saw that the movement had been polluted by these apasampadayas, pseudo preachers, who were just using it for their own sense enjoyment. So he started looking for the original manuscripts, the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that was in 1860. And I think he didn't find that until at least 8 years later. So we are very fortunate. We have access to so much literature, bona fide spiritual literature. And I hope it's not the case that we haven't read the Srimad Bhagavatam for 8 years because it's so accessible to us. We take it very lightly. The Bhagavad Gita is so accessible to us. Prabhupada has given everything to us on a plate. So unfortunately, that has its downside if we're not vigilant in our Krishna consciousness. If we're a little lapsadaisy and not very serious, then we can lose track of time and also lose the taste of hearing and reading and chanting. So we have to be careful. We have to understand, look, Bhaktivinod Thakur here is looking for a scripture where there's nobody there, no good association is there, but he's trying to find the original teachings and yet having so much difficulty. And we have access to all of this and yet we neglect it. So we have to try to improve our taste and enthusiasm for becoming more and more Krishna conscious. So then a little bit happened in his career. It took a good turn, actually. He got a position of deputy magistrate in the government of Bengal, and then he took a position of deputy registrar. had the power of a deputy collector. He didn't like that job, so he took up a position of magistrate, which was the highest position, deputy magistrate in West Bengal, highest ranking position in the government that could be held by an Indian person during the British Raj. And around about, yes, this is the time he found in 1868, he found the Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was very happy to find that. And he transferred many times. Actually, his health was never too good. He always used to have some stomach issue. Now, this is a Nitya Siddha, eternally liberated soul, not somebody who's really under the influence of Maya as such. But for a short period of time, it may seem very strange, some of the things that Bhaktivinoda Thakur went through in his life. But we have to understand that this is a great divine personality who was fighting against all odds. He was on his own, fighting against a whole tradition of different philosophies. And the philosophy, which is the real philosophy, was completely manipulated into something totally different. Anyway, he was transferred at some point to Kampara, which is, I think, in Orissa. And there, the people complained about a ghost, there being a ghost in a banyan tree. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur simply advised them to read the Srimad Bhagavatam day and night. And they did that for 1 month, and the tree crashed down to the ground. And that increased the faith of people in the message of the Bhagavatam. Then he moved to Jagannath Puri. Second time he went there. And he was very happy because that's the home of Chaitanya after he took sannyas. And there he had some very interesting dealings, especially with somebody called Bisakisine, who was a mystic. He proclaimed himself to be Mahavishnu, the avatar of God. And he had companions who were called Brahma and Shiva. So if you recall, this is the trinity that we were discussing yesterday, the Guna avatars, Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. Of course, they're fake because ultimately they were just pseudo personalities who were imitating the Supreme Lord. He had some powers. He could make fire come out of his hair, for example, things like that. He had some mystical powers. And he was using those powers and exploiting women. So the government wanted to arrest him, but nobody wanted to take that role on because he was quite a fearsome personality. They were all scared of him. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was requested and he took on the task. He went to see him and he was warned by this Bisakisine that don't interfere with me, otherwise you will be in serious trouble. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very diplomatic. He said, yes, I can see that you're very powerful. Why don't you come to Jagannath Puri and you can come and have darshan of Lord Jagannath. And you and him are avatars, so you can meet each other. But the reply that came was, why should I come and see Jagannath? He's only a chunk of wood. Now, that really upset the Thakur. And he immediately arrested the rogue. He had many policemen, constables with him. And they put him in jail and they took him to trial. The trial lasted 18 days. But during those days, it was a very difficult time for Bhaktivinoda Thakur. On the 6th day, his daughter was taken seriously ill. This pseudo personality kept threatening Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he had some tantric powers. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very strong. He said, okay, let us all die, but this rascal has to be punished. On the final day of the trial, Bhaktivinoda Thakur became very ill, high fever, and just like his daughter had. But he was still determined. He still went to court, and he was determined that this man would be found guilty, or he would be, the justice would be done. He was found guilty. He was sentenced to 18 months in jail for political conspiracy. And what happened at that time in the courtroom, one of the British officers, he realized that Bisakisine's power is in his hair. So he actually cut off his hair. So actually this yogi lost his power, because throughout the whole trial he had been fasting. Suddenly he lost his power, he fell to the ground, and eventually 3 months later he died. So this was the strength, the moral strength of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Even under very trying circumstances, he did not give in. In Puri, he would study the Bhagavatam, and he would study the commentaries of the previous acharyas, and he would write different books that were written by the six Goswamis. He would write them out longhand so that he has a copy of it. He spent a lot of time, especially in these 20 years, 74 to 93, reading, writing, chanting, and also continuing with his normal magistrate duties and family duties as well. There was one man called Raghunath Das Babaji. He didn't acknowledge the Thakur as a very religious person because he never saw him wearing kantimala like we do, or the tilak that we have on our foreheads. And the reason why the Thakur never did that, because he wasn't initiated, he didn't have a guru. So the Thakur, well, this Raghunath Das was thinking like this, and he was also telling others to avoid Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But he became seriously ill one time, and in a dream, Jagannath came to Raghunath Das and said that you are being offensive to the Thakur, so go and apologize to him. And when Raghunath Das Goswami woke up, he immediately went and apologized to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But the Thakur never actually took any offense. He was actually very, very humble. He said to Raghunath Das that, I want to be your disciple. Because actually I don't have a guru, so I want to take a guru. And in this way, he would speak with Raghunath Das. And he also gave him some medicines to cure him of his problem. So eventually the Thakur became manager of Jagannath Puri temple. If you can imagine that, that must have been a really magnificent honor. And he did his duties very strictly. He established a proper worship of the deities. He would discuss daily Bhagavatam, and he established that within the compound of the temples. And he would go to the other temples and spend many, many hours in Tota Gopinath and Siddhabakul, the Gambhira temples. There's so many wonderful temples in Jagannath Puri. And he really made use of his time in Jagannath Puri. And it was a very auspicious time. In 1874, he cried out to the Lord, please send some help. I'm on my own. Send a ray of Vishnu. By your ray of Vishnu, you run the whole universe, all the universes. Please kindly send one ray of Vishnu to me. And the fourth son of the Thakur was born. Initially, he was known as Bimala Prasad. Later on, he'll be known as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, who Bhaktivinoda Thakur spread the message of Krishna consciousness throughout Bengal and Orissa. His son, he had many children, but this son, Bimala Prasad, Bhaktisiddhanta, he spread it all over India, Bharat. And his disciple, Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, he spread it all over the world. So we are really fortunate to be in this sampradaya. Oh, this is a nice picture. Yes, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhagwati Mataji, and this is Bimala Prasad, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And these are all his other different children. He had about 10 in all. It's quite a nice family album. Now, at this time, he also found out that the king of Puri was taking money from the Jagannath temple. Jagannath temple is very rich. It gets a lot of donations. And about 80,000 rupees, which in that time was a lot of money, was stolen by the king. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was not scared. He forced the king to offer to Jagannath 52 chapan, no, that's not chapan bhog, that's bavan bhog every day, 52 times. And that's a lot of offerings. It's a lot of money. And the king became angry and he wanted to kill Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He got some Brahmins to perform tantric rituals. But in the end, his own son died. And the pure-hearted Thakur, nothing happened to him. He had more children, and then he left Puri. He was reassigned to Bengal, somewhere in Bengal. He published books, different books. He took initiation at the age of 40 from Bipin Bihari Goswami. He's from the Janava family, a very nice tradition in terms of spiritual tradition. And later on, he was given this name of Bhaktivinod. Vinod means happiness and Bhakti means devotion. And he was happy in publishing books and distributing them and preaching. So he was called Bhaktivinod. And then he also got the name Satchit Ananda because he produced a book with that title, which became very famous. So he's known as Srila Satchit Ananda Bhaktivinod Thakur. And the name Thakur came to him from his eternal Shiksha Guru, who is in our line, Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji. And around this time, in 78, his seventh son, Lalita Prasad, was also born. Lalita Prasad is an interesting personality. We won't have time to go through his life. Bhaktivinoda Thakur started producing magazines. He would go to different holy places. He went to Vrindavan. This is his second visit. His first visit was 1866. And then he again went in 1881 for a few months. There he met Jagannath Das Babaji. And he took much guidance from Jagannath Das Babaji. And he accepted him as his Shiksha Guru. And in our line, we have Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was instructed by Jagannath Das Babaji. Bhaktivinoda Thakur so he got his name Thakur from Jagannath Das Babaji, not Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur then instructed Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji, who initiated Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who initiated Bhaktivedanta. It's a bit confusing with these names. So from Vrindavan, he went back to Calcutta, and there he built a house called Bhakti Bhavan for his residence. And when they were excavating, they found a deity of Kurmadev. Kurma is the tortoise incarnation. And this Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave to his 7-year-old son, Bimala, to worship. And Bimala worshipped this deity with a lot of faith. So it's a very amazing personality. And a lot happened with Bimala Prasad, but we won't have time to go through that. We can talk about that when it's the appearance of Bhaktisiddhanta. Now, at Bhakti Bhavan, Bhaktivinoda Thakur would publish. He had a printing press. He established one there, and he published lots and lots of literature, lots of great books, which are often used by devotees in order to gain more spiritual knowledge. So these are some of the books. We've read Manasasika, which is teaching to the mind, Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, which talks about all the holy places in Mayapur, Jaiva Dharma we've looked at. So many of these books we haven't looked at. So they are mostly translated into English now, I think. So, okay. He would lecture on the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. He wanted to retire and go to Vrindavan. They would not let him retire. And in any case, Lord Chaitanya appeared to him in a dream. And he said to him, yes, you can certainly go to Vrindavan, but still you have some service to perform in Navadvip. So why don't you, what about that? Isn't that wonderful? The Lord comes to your dream and asks you, what about this service? So when the Thakur woke up and realized this fantastic dream, he changed his plan. He negotiated a transfer to Nagar near Navadvip. And there he did a lot of research. He found out eventually that the birthplace of Chaitanya was in the wrong place. It was across the Ganga. He did a lot of research and he realized that it's not in the place that they are all professing it to be, but actually it's in a different place. It's in a place called Mayapur, across the Ganga from Navadvip, where it was established. He had a lot of opposition because in Navadvip, the Pandas, the Pandits, it would have been a great loss for them if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace was moved. But his birthplace is his birthplace. Can't change where he was born. And it's a very potent place. So he found out that a certain place was very potent. Somebody guided him to that place. And then through research, the library and the maps and other sources, he found out that this is actually the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born. And then later on, his spiritual master, Shiksha Guru, Jagannath Das Babaji, he asked him to come. And he was 125 years old. He had to be carried. So he was brought to this place. And as soon as he was brought there, he suddenly started jumping up and down, dancing like a madman. So that was like confirmation that this is the right place of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth. And then he took leave for a couple of years from his magistrate duties. And he bought a plot of land across the Ganga again, called Godrun Dweep. And he built his Surabhi Kunj there. And that place is still there. We can visit it. We've been there quite a few times. And his house is there. It's now turned into a temple. And there's many of his belongings are there, worshipped by the devotees there. And there's a nice banyan tree out there. How do you know that? How do you remember that? He was also very innovative in the way he preached. He started the Namahat program, where it would be spread from house to house, town to town, village to village. This program is used currently by ISKCON, especially Jayapataka Swami, very effectively, and it's created many, many devotees and spread the mission of Krishna consciousness throughout Bengal and Bangladesh. And throughout the world, actually, this is slowly catching on in many places. The Bhakti Viksha groups, they start from this Namahat program. And one time his son became ill, had some skin disease, and Jagannath Das Babaji told the boy to lie down at the birth site of Lord Chaitanya, which he did, and the next morning he was cured. So it's a very potent place. So Thakur made a third visit to Vrindavan in 1892, and he would lecture and then return back to Calcutta. He would give lots of lectures. He gave a very prominent lecture in 1894 about the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to some very prominent leaders, and he convinced them that this Yoga Pit, which is what it's called, is the true birthplace of Mahaprabhu. And that's the year that they started celebrating Gaur Purnima at Yoga Pit with the installation of Gaur Vishnu Priya. And he also, then he retired that year, and he would simply write and preach. He would go to Calcutta, beg door to door for the building of the Yoga Pit temple. This is the Surabhi Kunj, his residence in Godru. And his writings were phenomenal. They reached, they went beyond geographical boundaries of Bharat. And as I said earlier on, his life and precepts, the life and precepts of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reached Canada. And there, one of the devotees of Srila Prabhupada found the book, took it to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was very, very happy. Because that was also published in 1896, which was the year that Srila Prabhupada was born. So that's quite significant. And there was one man who was an editor of a newspaper, leading editor of a newspaper, and he said to Bhaktivinod Thakur, I have not seen the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, but I consider you to be the 7th Goswami. So this title has stuck. So Bhaktivinod Thakur is regarded as the seventh Goswami. He eventually took the dress of Babaji, so that means that he would retire pretty much from family life, and he just gave his time for devotional practices, especially chanting and preaching extensively. That was in 1908, and in 1910 he completely withdrew himself on the basis of ill health, and he was just enjoying bhakti with the Supreme Lord. And in 1914, he passed away, and his samadhi is in this place here, which is Surabhi Kunj. This is his samadhi, where he's been buried. Go through the land of Nadia, near Mayapur. And 6 years later, his wife passed away. And she was a great Vaishnavi as well. They were both amazing personalities. This is his schedule, daily schedule. This starts in the evening, so let's just take it from the evening. He would take a rest at 8 o'clock at night, but get up 2 hours later. And he would then work through the night. For 6 hours, he would write. Take rest at 4 o'clock for half an hour, then he would chant for 2.5 hours till 7. He would write some letters, study for an hour, and then he would take rest again at 9:30 to 9:45. And then he would have some breakfast, go to the court, in a very simple breakfast, milk and chapatis and fruit. Then he would go to the court, do his 6 hours of work, have a little break in the middle, and then come back home, have a little bit to eat, translate some scriptures, write more, and then start again at 8 o'clock in the evening by a little rest. So his daily schedule was 3 hours sleep, writing for 8.5 hours, his japa and study for 4.5 hours, and work for 6 hours. Quite an incredible. And if you think, he had such a large family, he wrote so many books, so many songs, he preached so widely, he had this very demanding job. But his job, he would go in the morning to the court, and cases that would take 3 or 4 days, generally, he would resolve them within half an hour, perhaps even less. And the court officers would always wonder, how can he do it so quickly? They would check his work. Is this correct? And they would never find a mistake. So he was a very empowered personality. He always had a pocket watch, which he was very punctual. In fact, if he had a train to catch, he'd be there half an hour before the train. He would wear coat and pants to the court with double-sized tulsi neck beads and Vaishnav tilak. He was very strong in his decisions, and he would decide immediately. He had 3 predictions. One was, a personality will soon appear, and he will travel all over the world to spread the teachings of Krishna consciousness, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Second prediction, very soon the chanting of Harinam Sankirtan will be spread all over the world. Oh, when will that day come when the people from America, England, France, Germany, Russia take up the kartals and madanga and chant Hare Krishna in their towns? So this actually came true, has come true. And then, this is really famous. When will that day come when the fair-skinned foreigners will come to Sri Mayapudam and join with the Bengali Vaishnavas to chant Jai Satchinandan, Jai Satchinandan? When will that day be? So these 3 have all come true by the grace of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So he wrote countless books, countless songs. In these 4 books, are his songs. And these songs, we sing a lot of them. Very beautiful songs, very beautiful books. And they describe the life of our lives, actually, and how we can improve ourselves. He's very, very humble. In one song, he even writes, my dear Lord Sri Krishna, you have given liberation to all the demons, but you have left me in this world. It's amazing, such humility. And he cared for us, and hence why he did all this hard work. And we, in this tradition, this Sampradaya, we owe a great deal to Bhaktivinod Thakur. Without him, we would struggle, because until his time, his tradition was practically finished. So he revived it. He was he actually made it. He was a revolutionary. He made it happen, and here he is. So amazing. This is one of the times that he was doing austerity. You can see he hasn't shaved. Chaturmasya, yeah, that's right. He used to shave every month, his head as well. So that's it. That's Bhaktivinod Thakur's life.
And I think, is it from his place? He could see where the TOVP will be.
That's right.
And he said that's the place where
that's right.
the big temple will arise.
That was actually Nityananda to Jiva Goswami. But yes, that's right.
He also could see it from where he used to live.
That's right. When you go there, you can see that temple. So Bhaktivinod Thakur ki jai. So are there any questions or any comments? Everybody has been very, very silent today. I hope I haven't put everybody to sleep. Is there anybody out there?
Far from it. Far from it. I'm enjoying every aspect of it.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Very intellectual.
He was an amazing personality.
Yeah, very, very interesting.
A very interesting personality.
This is how you should utilize your time, you know.
Yes, yes. You're absolutely right, Suresh. Absolutely 100% right.
Because every minute is important.
Yes. Very good point.
Mm.
That's a phenomenal point.
That's how I want to do myself.
Very good. Very good. Me too. Me too. Let's pray for each other so we can follow in.
That's true. I just got to make a move. I've got an appointment. So
okay. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thanks. You very much. So, is there any other comments or questions? Or anything that you'd like to know more, or you'd like to share something that you have heard about Bhaktivinod Thakur? Because I think everybody who comes into the Hare Krishna movement, they look at Bhaktivinod Thakur, and I was talking about Vijay. He was saying, I've always wanted to know more about him, and I always wanted to read his books. And I have felt the same way since the beginning, that such an interesting personality. I wonder what his life was like. But it was a very tough life, and there's certain aspects of his life you think, wow, this can't be. But we got to understand, he's a Nitya Siddha, eternally liberated soul. Otherwise, how could he possibly do what he did? Okay, so...
Krishna Prabhu, I just wanted to ask a quick question.
Yes, of course.
He seems like he's got 2 initiations. Why?
Right. Little controversial.
Yeah.
There was Bipin Bihari Gosai, whom he took initiation from, the formal Diksha.
Yeah.
Because what happened, actually, a dream, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in a dream of both the guru and the disciple. So he is your guru and he is your disciple. And that's how that initiation took place. However, there are different versions of this, but Bipin Bihari Goswami somewhat didn't have particularly high opinion of one of the 6 Goswamis, Raghunath Das Goswami, who wasn't born in a Brahmin family, he was born in a Shudra family. So perhaps his view was this is a Shudra and not a Brahmin, not really a Goswami. And that difference of opinion seems to have alienated the disciple from the guru. So in our line, we do not consider Bipin Bihari as one of the gurus. In fact, it's Jagannath Das Babaji. And who Jagannath Das Babaji is a senior Vaishnava in Vrindavan who Bhaktivinod Thakur took instructions from. Shiksha Guru. So there's two types of gurus. There's the Diksha
Yeah.
Guru and the Shiksha Guru.
That's right.
Our line doesn't necessarily just flow on Diksha. It flows on both Diksha and Shiksha. So Bhaktivinod Thakur is regarded to have accepted Jagannath Das Babaji as Shiksha Guru. And that's our connection into this parampara,
Right.
Shiksha. Yeah, but it's a little bit of a controversial point.
Yeah.
But according to this particular line tradition, this is the idea that Bhaktivinod Thakur's Shiksha Guru is Jagannath Das Babaji, and that's how he's connected to this Sampradaya.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you for that, and well observed. Thank you.
That's okay.
Well
Thank you.
observed.
No.
There was a few things I was trying to say, but not say, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
That was one of them.
Yeah.
So, there's always some interesting twist or controversy, and it just makes life a little bit more interesting and more exciting. But one thing is for sure that this personality is such an amazing personality.
Yeah, he did a lot in his life. I mean, yeah, with such a big family as well.
Extraordinary. We struggle with.
Yeah, too. Yeah.
That's right. Can you
Yeah.
imagine? My goodness. Thank you very much, dear devotee. Thank you, Minabu. Thank you very much. Okay, so we can go to the Nashinga Coach and Karuna Bandar.